He's not going to put his money in. I'm not. But here's a guy who did. Jeff Berwick is with us. He's an early Bitcoin investor. And he thinks that Bitcoin's going to keep on going straight up. And did you tell me during the break, I know you did, repeat it for the viewers, you think it's going to go to $1 million?
I don't think it's going to go to $1 million, but it has the definite potential to do that.
You're talking up your own book because you own some Bitcoins and you're just going to try to make them go up.
Boy, it feels great to be a Bitcoin millionaire. I'm loving it.
207% return on one Bitcoin company in 1 month. Where else are you going to get a 207% return right now?
The small bull case scenario is a $400 billion market cap. So
a $400 billion with a B.
Yes.
Market cap.
So the market cap's around $4 billion right now. So it doesn't make sense in the sense that it should be 100 times more.
This is how drugs come in the mail from the Silk Road. Isn't this wonderful?
It has been cruising between $700 to $800 today around the world. About 7 weeks ago, I put out a video called The Truth About Bitcoin, where I said it was a fantastic thing. I was going to stay in it.
And it's gone.
Well, and it's not that I'm against Bitcoin per se, as much as look where we are in humanity right now. I am a firm believer that we are on a hair's breadth of the single largest event in human history, which would be the dollar collapse. And I just take people back to realize how things have scaled up to such magnitudes and what that impact is going to mean. Long-term capital management was a highly leveraged hedge fund that in 1998 threatened to take down the entire Western financial system with their leveraged derivative bets. That single institution or single individuals were bailed out by the institutions of Wall Street, backed up by the Federal Reserve or forced by the Federal Reserve. They all had to come up with billions of dollars to unwind all these deals to save the system. Okay, so that was 1998. Over the next decade, all those institutions learned that long-term capital management was doing a pretty great job of picking up nickels in front of all these trades. So they done high-frequency trading and algorithms and all these means of ratcheting up and using leverage. And we saw what happened with the tech bubble. We saw what happened with the 2008 crash. And all that got sopped up by the sovereign nations. So it started with individual risky bets that got taken over by institutions, and then the institutions themselves collapsed. The Lehman Brothers, AIG, General Motors, all these major corporations all got bailed out by the sovereign nations.
On Thursday at about 11 o'clock in the morning, the Federal Reserve noticed a tremendous drawdown of money market accounts in the United States to the tune of $550 billion was being drawn out in a matter of an hour or two. The Treasury opened up its window to help. They pumped $105 billion in the system and quickly realized that they could not stem the tide. We were having an electronic run on the banks. They decided to close the operation, close down the money accounts, and announce a guarantee of $250,000 per account so there wouldn't be further panic out there. And that's what actually happened. If they had not done that, their estimation was that by 2 o'clock that afternoon, $5.5 trillion would have been drawn out of the money market system of the United States, would have collapsed the entire economy of the United States, and within 24 hours the world economy would have collapsed. Now, we talked at that time about what would happen if that happened. It would have been the end of our economic system and our political system as we know it. And that's why, when they made the point, we've got to act and do things quickly, we did.
So now, nothing has been fixed. Nothing has been changed. Its magnitude's worse because now all the risk, all the problems are at the sovereign nation level. So now we're seeing, Greece and Cyprus and Ireland and Spain and Japan's got so much debt. We have so much debt. The whole world's flooding in debt. And now we have this competitive currency devaluation, inflation, breaking property laws, breaking into banks, stealing people's assets like we're seeing in Cyprus. And all the problems now are on a global systemic level. Like, there is no higher authority. When the system breaks the next time, it is going to be, everything's on the table. So whatever you guys felt in 2008, like, oh, the world was going to end, that was nothing.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
We've blown through whatever safety nets we've had in 2008. We've blown through whatever faith that we had in the system, the politicians, the bankers. Now it's going to be the faith in the currencies. And so ahead of this most incredible event, and I believe all of human history, because there's no other currency that has had as much depth and breadth and access throughout the world, all of the currencies, all of the markets, real estate, stocks, bonds, everything. Your love life is dictated by this dollar. When that goes, when the faith in that currency goes, all social, financial, and political contracts will be broken. All power will devolve down to the most local and responsive level. And there's only three things that you're going to be left with. You're going to be left with real assets, real skills, and real friends. Anything that diverts people away from those three solutions that I think are the only things that people can do in the reality are digital distractions to keep you playing in their casino. So now Bitcoin comes along in 2011. May 2011, I have this Don't Tread on Me blog. I'm kind of this libertarian anarchy kind of guy talking about competition and currency and stuff like that. And I start getting hammered by 4 or 5 or 6 different guys. Chris, have you heard of Bitcoin? What do you think about Bitcoin? Why don't you try Bitcoin? Here, let me give you some Bitcoin. Bitcoin. So I'm looking at it, and I look it up, and I watch this interview, and I'm like, this thing is a freaking scam. I said, these guys created 6 million Bitcoins that had no value whatsoever, and then they're going to cash in on this by building up the perceived value of it. And I look at it and I'm like, geez, it sounds like every good scam has this same fundamental system to it. You take something that has no intrinsic value, build up the perceived value, and sell it to the greater fool for real value. And that's what this has been built up to. So while all the technicians love the technicalities of it, while all the libertarians love the freedom aspects of it, no one wants to talk about the psychology that's actually driving this. It's not Cyprus. There was only 4 users in Cyprus that even have Bitcoin accounts. Brother John confirmed that with me at the other thing. You know what is driving it? Hype. People who have bought in this idea at a very low level. Other bloggers like myself, I actually, when I first talked about this, I was pestered so much about it that I looked into it, and you can look this up. There's an article I wrote called "What Will Collapse First, Bitcoin or the Dollar?" And I think I wrote it June 12th, 2011, or June 9th, 2011, somewhere around that time. And I said that this thing is essentially nothing, and it will collapse back to its intrinsic value, like Voltaire said. All paper money will collapse to its intrinsic value 0. But Bitcoin's actually even worse than just paper money. And I think 9 or 12 days later, it happened. Bitcoin was hacked and flash crashed down to 1 cent.
Right.
Okay. So I knew that back then. I was like, this thing's a fraud. It has no intrinsic value, and if anything goes wrong with it, you're risking your entire bet. Now, Bitcoin comes back into this community because now people go, oh well, it worked once. Let's try it again. They ran it up from a fraction of a cent to $30 or something like that, and it crashed back to 0. They brought it back online, opened it up at 17, and it fell back down to $2. So now there's a bunch of these guys out there who say, let's wash, rinse, and repeat with the suckers out there. So they ended up buying up a whole bunch of this, and then you get these guys who are now building up the hype for it. Max Kaiser, who's the biggest one out there, is on Alex Jones claiming that this thing's going to go to $100,000 or possibly $1 million.
That would mean an implied price for Bitcoin to 100,000, potentially $1 million.
Hailing it as the second coming.
Bitcoin is the second coming.
The Cyber Christ.
This is what we've been waiting for. This is the Cyber Christ.
That is what's pushing this up. You know, if people are going to gamble with it, fine, but treat it as that. Treat it as this your Vegas trip. Don't put any serious money in it, especially at the price that it's at now. And that, you know, at the end of the day, you need to be in real assets. And if you did get in on this and you did make some money, take some chips off the table.